Chai with Manjula, a show about giving, featuring non-profit organizations, social activists, social entrepreneurs, and philanthropists who are giving back and making a difference. Chai with Manjula is a show that is a must-see. Welcome to Chai with Manjula. My guest today is Guru Raj Desh Deshpande, an iconic figure in the Indian American community as a successful serial entrepreneur and a generous philanthropist. He is well known as a co-founder and chairman of Sycamore Networks and founder and chairman of Cascade Communications. Dr. Deshpande serves as a life member of the MIT Corporation, and his generous support has made possible MIT's Deshpande Center for Technological Innovation. The Deshpande Foundation, which he established in 1996, has set up several initiatives, including the Deshpande Center for Social Entrepreneurship in India, Merrimack Valley Social Entrepreneurship Sandbox in Massachusetts, and the Pond-Deshpande Center at the University of New Brunswick in Canada. Dr. Deshpande also co-chairs a national council to support President Obama's innovation and entrepreneurship strategy. Desh, welcome to Chai with Manjula.
Thank you, Manju.
Well, the Deshpande Foundation has launched some incredible initiatives here in the US and in India. What is the mission and vision of the organization?
You know, a lot of the foundations, sometimes they get very passionate about some cause because they go through some difficulty in life or the other. But with us, it's been the opportunity. You know, I left India 73, got married in 1980, so I and Jayashree, we've been living around here since 1980. Mm-hmm. And we've been in Boston now since 1984.
Oh, you lived there all along?
Yeah. And we've had incredible opportunities in terms of having the opportunity to be an entrepreneur and do some companies. And it's just a very thrilling experience. And so I think the foundation is really focused on how do you really use innovation and entrepreneurship to make this a better world.
Okay, and one of the initiatives that I've heard about is the MIT Deshpande Center. What kind of work is it doing and the number of companies that have emerged out of it? Can you tell us about that?
Sure. You know, MIT, as you know, MIT, Stanford, Caltech, they're already very good in terms of taking the technology and creating companies and having a big impact. Mm-hmm. Now, when we did our companies in the 70s and 80s, a lot of the core technology came out of places like Bell Labs. And by 2000, places like Bell Labs didn't exist anymore, mostly because of the global competition. So the center of gravity for new idea generation had squarely moved back to universities, because the United States spends about $50 billion in universities, about $100 billion in federal labs. And I joined the board of MIT in 2000, about 12 years ago. Mm-hmm. So I think our focus was, how do you have these people in universities do their research in a way so that they can create more opportunities for entrepreneurs, like the opportunity that we had. Okay. And so what happens is that people within universities come up with great ideas. But the great ideas don't really have an impact on the world unless that idea is directed to some burning problem in the world. Sure. Right? So the basic formula at MIT, Deshpande Center, is bringing relevance to innovation. So it's innovation plus relevance is equal to impact. What happens is that it's a very systemic problem with innovation. If you want to have innovation, you can't mandate innovation. You can't say, hey, go think about new things. Mm-hmm. You have to create a very nurturing environment. And so when you create a nurturing environment and have people come up with new ideas, most of the people have a big desire to have a big impact. They want to cure cancer. They want to do something big. Mm-hmm. But slowly over the course of time, they get further and further removed from the real world. And it becomes a little bit clubby in nature. And so what happens is, over the course of time, they get into impressing each other versus actually having that impact, because they move away from the real world. Mm-hmm. So what the Deshpande Center did at MIT is to have a very methodical way of connecting these thinkers to the real world. Nice. So and so as a result of that, what happens is, for the researchers who really want to have an impact, Now they have a context. They have the real world that they're interacting with. As a result, the ideas that they come up with are more likely to have the impact.
I see.
So the MIT Center has funded about 90 projects, out of which about 27 of them have become companies.
Wow,
We put in about $20 million into the center.
That's
But
commendable.
the people who have come out of it have already raised over $450 million, and it's really become a national model now.
Okay, your life is all about entrepreneurship and innovation. You have also been appointed to Obama's National Advisory Council on Innovation and Entrepreneurship. What is it about and what has it accomplished?
So I got appointed to chair this Obama's council 2 years ago. So what happens in the United States is that, jobs is everything about the economy.
Right.
And if you look at the last 15 years, the new companies, United States starts roughly about 500,000 new companies every year. And they have very consistently generated 4 million new jobs every year. And the big companies tend to lose jobs because the innovation sort of makes them irrelevant. So to really get the economy going, we need to generate a lot more jobs than the 4 million by these startups, innovative companies. So we need both. We need more companies to get started, but more than that, we need to get these companies to speed up. So it's startup and speed up of these companies.
Okay.
So to really make that happen, you need 4 things. You need good ideas. You need entrepreneurs, people who can take those ideas, because just a good idea doesn't get anywhere unless somebody actually dedicates their life to it and makes something happen out of it. You need mentors, and then you need access to capital. So what we have done at the council is to very methodically work on all the 4 things and come up with recommendations so that we can have good ideas, good entrepreneurs, good mentors, and good access to capital. So in terms of ideas, it's really trying to leverage the $150 billion that the U.S. taxpayers spend every year in terms of funding research.
Yes.
And so a lot of that work has really come out of the Deshpande Center at MIT. So NSF has implemented a program now. NIH is very seriously looking at a similar program. And so hopefully those $150 billion that we spend will have more and more ideas that will really have enough ideas for the new companies. Entrepreneurship, I co-chair the council with Steve Case, who was the founder of AOL, and he really led the charge of starting this program called Startup America, where we've been promoting entrepreneurship in every city and really making sure that the entrepreneurship really held high as role models and really make it a career for a lot of young people. Mentors, fortunately, U.S. is probably the place where we have so many people who have done so many companies that we want to create enough opportunities for them to mentor these younger people. And in terms of access to capital, that's the initiative that I led. And fortunately, we came up with a recommendation which got full bipartisan support. It's one of the few acts that actually got passed through the Congress last year. And it was very heartwarming to see Obama sign that into act in the Rose Garden last year.
Wow, it sounds very impressive. And another very interesting project that you have launched is the Sandbox. Can you tell us about it and its accomplishments?
Well, the way we got to this program called Sandbox is about 8 years ago, once we saw that the center at MIT was being successful, Jayshree and I said, well, what can we do about this in India? And so the first natural reaction was to do the same thing at IIT Madras, because we both went to IIT Madras. But somehow technological innovation in India didn't sound that exciting. So we said, well, let's do social innovation. But for social innovation, that equation that I talked about turns around. For technological innovation, it's innovation plus relevance is equal to impact. For social innovation, it's the relevance plus innovation is equal to impact. That is, you really have to start with a deep understanding of the problem itself, and then you bring in whatever new idea that you need. Could be management, could be technology, could be marketing, could be whatever, to solve the problem. The idea itself does not have to be patented first time in the world like you do for technological innovation. You can't start a new company if you don't have an idea that can withstand the competition and have competitive advantage. But for social innovation, the new idea that you need does not necessarily have to be the first time in the world. So to create that relevance and bring innovation to that relevance, we created this concept called the Social Innovation Sandbox. So it's an area of about 5 million people north of Bangalore, near Hubli, the town Hubli, Dharwad. And so, over the last 8 years or so, now we have about 50 people on the payroll. We have a center. We had probably over 100 people from the United States who have gone there and spent time, putting a lot of new ideas into the minds of people.
I see.
But also very quickly we realized that social innovation does not happen by outsiders. It can only happen if the people living in that area take the leadership position. So we came up with a lot of local leadership programs. For example, we have a program where 4 college students come together, pick a problem in the society, and solve the problem. So now we have 15,000 students solving 4,000 problems, right? We have a lot of entrepreneurship programs for young men and women who graduate and then become a resource for a lot of the social interventions, but also they start their own companies. And then we are also working with about 50 social interventions. And what's slightly different about these interventions that we're working with is we try to sort of bring the same way, the same process that you would do with a Silicon Valley startup. When you're trying to bring the intervention, we say, well, tell me what's new here. Because if you did the same thing that what people are doing, the problem is not going to go away. Maybe you can solve the problem temporarily, but it's not going to go away. So we sort of get the group to really focus on the innovation part of it, find out what's new, and then we fund to try the thing out. So it's like a pilot, right? And if it works, then we encourage that group to scale it the same way you would scale a company. And so out of the 50 programs, about 25 of them are looking pretty promising. And one of the programs for which I'm here in Bay Area today is to have this benefit event for Akshay Patra, which has scaled quite a bit.
Oh,
and you know the Akshay Patra story.
Right. So
Akshay Patra
also came out of this
is one of the 50. That in the sense, it's not like we dictate these things.
Right.
But people use the sandbox as a way to experiment.
So it's literally a sandbox like for children. They play there and come up with something.
Yes.
So
and some work, some don't work.
Right.
Because in the non-profit world, people are not used to things not working. That is, if you have a non-profit which goes to some funding agency and says, I want to try this out and it may work, may not work, people don't fund you. And what's new here is we say, don't worry about it, make it small. So if you fail in a small way so that it's not too much burden for you and too much burden for the funders. So we have about 25 programs that are looking very promising, and Akshay Patra is one of them. There's another program right behind that is called Agastya, which is teaching science to rural children. And we funded about 200,000 students for 4 years. And they came up with this program where they found that it didn't matter which school they went to, which small village school they went to, there would always be 5 to 10 children who are very smart. And so we came up with this program called the Young Instructor Leader Program, where they pull these students out in the summertime, train them, and they become science ambassadors for the schools. So this organization puts about 150 experiments in a van. The van goes to a village and it's there all day. And then people explain to them a lot of these science projects and everything else. But those children, the smart children who have been trained, then become peer-to-peer teachers. And so last year, out of the 10 Intel Science winners, 3 of the teams were from these villages.
Wonderful.
Which is the very first time in India, because usually Intel Science winners in India are always from the best schools in either Bangalore or Delhi or Mumbai. So it was very nice to see when you give the opportunities to these people in villages, how they can withstand any competition globally.
Okay, so since you have been on both sides, tell us how is the recipe for scaling up a social enterprise different from a business venture?
Well, in some ways they're different, and in some ways they're not really different. The difference is when you have a for-profit company, an entrepreneur starts with some idea. It doesn't matter how crazy the idea is. Ultimately, he has to find a product or a solution for which somebody is willing to pay.
Right.
If he never gets to that point, then the company does not survive. The company will just vanish. Chapter 11 or bankrupt or mergers and acquisition, whatever, it comes to an end.
Right.
So in the for-profit world, because it's very Darwinian, only performing assets will survive for a long period of time.
Okay.
Whereas in the non-profit world, the beneficiaries don't have the buying power. Right. So you do something, and the people whom you're trying to help, because poor people, I mean, they don't have the money to buy things, they have to accept whatever you give them. So you don't have a natural feedback loop that actually gets you to do things that your customers really want. And so people have to please the donors a lot more than they have to please the customers.
I see.
And so, so how do you bring that customer feedback into the solutions that you provide? Is the first big part of it. You know, how do you make it cost effective? How do you make it improve every year? So in the for-profit world, in the free market economy, if you had a product today, in 6 months you got to come up with 2.0 and then 3.0 and 4.0, and you have to continuously improve and compete. In the non-profit world, you don't have to. I mean, there's no pressure. You do something once, and you could be doing the same thing 50 years from now, and nobody really complains, right? Yeah. And so how do you bring those market forces? How do you bring that innovative thrust into the organization? Is the first part of it. Secondly, scaling it. How do you scale it? In businesses, you scale by your profits. You do something the customer likes, customer pays you, and he pays you more than what it costs you, and therefore that gives you money to scale it. Okay. In the non-profit world, you can scale it by one of the three ways. One is by free market economy. You know, you can come up with interventions where people can actually pay, in which case you can scale it. You can scale it by bringing innovation to government programs, or by a very broad-based charity, or a combination of the three. And so we really encourage people to think about this deeply and scale it so that they don't really depend on one donor.
Well, there's so much to talk about with you. I know you are very involved with TIE also. You have made a tremendous contribution there. You are into mentoring too. Tell us a little bit about that before we talk about...
Well, you know, TIE is got started in Silicon Valley. Suhas Patil, Kanwal Rekhi, all these people, Kailash Joshi, they really got this whole thing going. AJ Patel, you know, all the old-timers. And they did a tremendous job. You know, I think Silicon Valley not only did very good for themselves, but they somehow developed this culture of actually mentoring. And TIE is something that I'm very proud of, because it's the only organization where the more successful entrepreneurs actually pay $1,500 a year, so that they have an opportunity to help other people. Right?
It's all about fostering entrepreneurship.
Fostering entrepreneurship, mentoring other people, and everything else. And so now it's gotten global in scale. It's 52 chapters or something like that. It's in so many countries and thousands of entrepreneurs. So I think what TIE is doing is something, you know, it's a part of what I'm trying to do. And I think you know, there's 7 billion people in the world, and at one point it was like there were a few entrepreneurs who did things, and the rest of the people were sort of just consuming it. Slowly, as time goes on, we need to make everybody a lot more entrepreneurial, people who take the initiative, people who really take their life charge and make things happen. So if you really can charge up all the 7 billion people to do things, there's no big problems in the world that we cannot solve.
All right, and I know you are actively mentoring people too, which is great. And before we go, real quick, tell us a little bit about yourself. You are such a busy man. Give us some insight into your life. What do you do for relaxation? What is your hobby?
Well, you know, I think it changes every 5 years, because you know.
What is it now?
Now, you know, I and my wife, we do most of the things together now, because I'm spending more and more time on the foundation. We travel together quite a bit, and every time we travel on work, we get to see lots of different places, and so usually we, you know, I'm actually a very relaxed person. I mean, I don't lead a life which is very stressful or more busy than I want it to be.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So anything that you wish you could make time for?
No, actually, I'm pretty
Very
happy
content.
with, yeah.
No regrets?
No, because I mean, if there's something I really want to do, I'll do it. I mean,
Okay.
I'm not going to wait for it. So,
That's great to know. And what is your message for the NRIs, especially here in the Valley, in terms of making a difference?
right. I think a lot of us who actually came from India and came outside here have had tremendous opportunities to do good for ourselves. And I think being so far away from the country has really made you very entrepreneurial, very innovative. And I think we professionally compete pretty heavily in the marketplace, because if we don't, then we won't survive. Now, if we want to help the people who haven't had those opportunities, either in the United States or in India, then anything we can do to bring the same professional nature to the nonprofit world is I think, is where the biggest opportunity is. That is, a lot of people tend to think that the nonprofit is all about volunteerism, is all about, just doing if you have time, It's sort of, there is a feeling that if you don't get a job anywhere else, you go and do nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the way it should be. I think if you spend 5 minutes, if you spend an hour working on the nonprofit initiatives, it's just as important as it is when you do some professional work. And therefore, I would really encourage you to bring the same professionalism, the same resources, the same kind of intensity to that work that you do to your professional work.
Okay, and now in one sentence, what has it done for you? All this making a difference, giving back, what has it done for you?
Well, it's just a lot of fun. I mean, I think you are happy when you reinvent yourself. If you wake up in the morning and if you're excited about the day, you have it made. And if I can spend my whole life getting up in the morning and be excited about that particular day, I think I have it made. I can't ask for anything more than that.
On that beautiful note, I
Great.
Thank you, Desh, very much.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank you,
for making
Manju.
time for
Yeah,
this.
Great.
That was Dr. Deshpande, who, along with his wife Jayashree, established the Deshpande Foundation. The foundation is doing phenomenal work in the US, India, and Canada by promoting entrepreneurship and innovation as catalysts for change. For more information, you may go to their website, which is deshpandefoundation.org. And to watch this show again, go to chivewithmanjula.org or find us on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll be back with another inspiring story about giving and people making a difference. For Chai with Manjula, I'm Manjula Gupta. See you next time.